Welcome everybody to the Masterclass, how to have a 25,000 person crusade, 10,000 person crusade. You insert the number in 2026. It's going to be a in-depth guide of what to do, the practicals. It's a masterclass, so I'm going to be going over everything. And then this is the first lesson in the module, so the course. So everything else will be broken down in sections like Facebook ads, advertising, how to meet with the pastors, scripts for that. It's all the resources will be there as I build it up. I didn't forget about the course. It's just taking me a little bit of time because I'm actually doing a crusade at the same time I'm making it. I figured what better way to make it than when I'm in the midst of it, so it's like very fresh. So that's where we're at. But I want you, if you have a pen or paper or anything to take notes, I would encourage you to take notes. This is the masterclass of how to do crusades, and you can do giveaway crusades. You can do large scale campaigns, everything like that. But we're just going to get into it, and there's a way to do both. I know that many people rather go with the giveaway aspect, which sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to pivot, and I'll get into that. But you'll see why, but it's in a way, it's more sustainable to do it without the giveaways than with, and I'll get into that. But this is how to have the crusade of your dreams, basically. Who am I? Why should you even be listening to me? Completely valid questions if you have no idea who I am. That's me, the shorter guy next to, that's Bishop Dag, who's very tall in person, by the way. Very tall, as you can see. I mean, I'm like 6'5", and he's much taller than me. So that's me, and my name is Zeph. This is me 5 years ago, where I actually gave my life to the Lord at this crusade in the Dominican Republic. I was running the media team, as you can see there, and I gave my life to the Lord that crusade. So that's when I felt called in ministry, and when the Lord told me to be an evangelist and to do the same thing. So crusades have been on my heart from my spiritual birth, you could say, from when I was born again. It's something that is a part of me and that I want to promote. That's why it's a free course. I want to make sure that I can do what I can in my ability. I'm not the final expert, the final boss per se, but I do know a thing or two about crusades that I've learned over the years, and I would just like to share that to as many people, because I know a lot of people, maybe you watching this, have a dream to do crusades as well. So that's me. I've been crusade directing for 2 years now. I was blessed to be a part of Bishop Dag's crusade team over the course of a year when I first graduated Bible school. So, I've been crusade directing for 2 years now. I'm on my third solo crusade, actually. 9 crusades overall. This is my 9th crusade that I'm on. And, I've been a part of a team that was able to see 80,000 people at the crusade in Luanda, Angola. It was over 80,000. At that point, it's pretty hard to count, but there's a system for that too. But it was low-balling it. It was 80,000 people is what we were told. So personally, that's what I've been a part of. I had my 2 solo crusades on the bottom picture, over 2,000 in Philippines. In a matter of 6 days, we were able to do that, or 7 days. And then in Jackson, Tennessee, in the United States, we were able to gather over, I believe it was 1,200 people. Packed out the gym. We couldn't fit any more people into there. So that's kind of where we're at there. That's my experience from what I have on the crusade field. So I'm on a mission to make crusades accessible and sustainable for anyone. If you're a church, if you're an evangelist watching this masterclass, my goal is to make it accessible and sustainable for anyone to do it. To see crusades just left and right. If the devil's going to try to run rampant, then it's our job to let people know that they have victory over sin, that they can have victory over sin, that they can have healing, everything that the Bible says, prosperity. And people don't know that. That's the point of a crusade. So that's my mission, is to make crusades accessible and sustainable for anyone, whether you're a church watching this, a pastor, an evangelist in charge of outreach, whatever it is. And I'm the president of Kaloi. That's the name of my ministry. And we run this free community training evangelists like yourself in churches to implement crusades. And I've helped churches have their first domestic and international crusades, and they were both churches under 100 people. So these crusades that you see here, the ones we did in the Philippines and the one we did in Jackson, Tennessee, which I'm a youth pastor at that church, you don't have to have this huge team to start off. Both events were put on by a small amount of people, you could say. And, we would have had more in Jackson, but we literally could not pack more people into that gym safely, in the U.S. how it is. But don't think that you have to have any sort of prerequisite. You don't have to have any sort of, I want to do crusades, but I don't have a team. I want to do crusades, but I don't have, my church only has 30 people. It only has 40 people. How are we going to do outreaches? Everyone can do it, and everyone should do it. Everyone should do it. So that's the whole point of this course. That's the whole point of why I'm even doing this. And this is not to brag. I just want to go ahead and start off and say that. I just want to prove to you what you're capable of, what your church is capable of. And when you apply what you learned today, you'll be able to see all these things come to pass, that maybe as a pastor you have a vision to have an outreach and grow the church sustainably, have outreaches, sustainably have crusades internationally and domestic. I've done both. And, as an evangelist, to have your first crusade, you're believing the Lord for a crusade director. Why don't you go out there and learn how to do it yourself and then do it? That's something Bishop Dag taught me. Bishop Dag had nobody helping him. He started off, they have the picture on the Healing Jesus campaign office where it's him planning his own crusade. He did his own crusade, and there was like 50 people that showed up. But that's how the Healing Jesus campaign started. So you have to start, and you won't start off like that, because what he taught us, and I want to share with you guys, is that there's a system in place to have a sustainable and a repeatable program, so you can keep doing these crusades, keep having them. So again, not to brag, I just want to prove to you what's capable. And it seems like a lot. I get it. It seems like a lot at the start, where, you have these questions. I have no idea where to get started. Where do I steward the money? What do I do when people get saved? All these different questions people have. But it's a repeatable process. And this is kind of like a mega outline of what's to come throughout the course and what really you do throughout a crusade. But it's a repeatable and sustainable process that you don't have to worry about doing something new every time. Why do something new when you know what works? There's no reason to. So it really is just a cycle, like I put on the bottom right, of these things that you just repeat and repeat and repeat, and it works every single time by the grace of God. So don't think that this isn't some paid course. I just want to push everybody to do a little bit more, like Bishop Dag says, and he pushes every single one of us. So I just want you to know the practical application of what to do to have a crusade. That's really all this is. So this is Crusade Academy. So the full workshop to get your first 1,000 people at a crusade. Put whatever number you want in there. 1,000, 5,000, 3,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is possible. So if you're taking notes, this will be a really in-depth workshop. We'll get right into it. And then obviously, I can't go through all the ins and outs of how to have the Facebook marketing, or how to have the different areas that are really niche. You obviously have to spend a little bit more time on that. So for all of that, in-depth, questions that you may have, we're going to do monthly calls for all the in-depth questions and everything like that. We'll have a group chat. I want you to join the Crusade Academy course, which is, again, free, but it's just a community for us to build everything. Any questions you have, we can, I know there's other evangelists and other pastors that want to be a part of it already that reached out. So if you want to be a part of it, it's super easy. I'll show you how to connect, and we'll be able to connect with you and grow that crusade and any questions you may have throughout the course. So by the end of this class, you would have learned why have crusades and how to direct your first with no volunteers. And that's to start, okay? So yeah, you may not have a single volunteer. When I got here to the city where I'm at, there's no volunteers. You show up and you do the work. But it doesn't stay that way. You show up and you just have to do the work. So you'll know why to have crusades, how to direct your first one. You'll also have an interactive workshop monthly with me. That's the call I'm talking about within the course, so you can plan your first steps with me live. And that'll be all the steps of where to go, how to plan where to go, how to market, any questions that you may have throughout the course or throughout the rest of the course of what to do. That's where we can go ahead and address those questions, address anything you may have. And you'll have, by the end of this class, the roadmap from beginner to multi-thousand crusades or crusade directing. So you'll have the roadmap of how to begin of wherever you're at. You have a 30-person church, you have a 15-person church, you just started, and you have a vision for a crusade. You have a vision to do an outreach. You have a vision to do whether domestic or foreign, these things for the Lord. You'll have a practical roadmap, which, you can tweak if you want, but you'll have a practical roadmap of what to do, what to build upon. And each time it'll only get bigger and better, and you'll build upon it. So just a bonus for doing this masterclass with me. I want to go ahead and reach out for everyone who watches the whole thing and is watching this portion specifically. I'm launching the Crusade Academy group chat for the first 10 ministries who are serious about having their first crusade. I'll add you into the group chat where I'll personally assist you however I can in that group chat. So again, I'm not saying I'm the expert of crusades, but I just know some things that I would like to share with everybody. And there's questions that come up in certain cities. What do I do about this? What do I do about that? And I just want to help you address those questions. So any questions you have, I'll be able to address it within that group chat. So that group chat will be open to you guys. I'll share with you how to join at the end of the masterclass today. But that'll be there for me to assist you in whatever way I can. That's something that'll be available to you. That'll be in addition to the course. It'll be somewhere where we can talk not just once a month, but where, if you're planning a crusade right now, where you can pop in your questions in there, we can hop on a call and we can address it personally. So the group chat will be there. But I want to start off with this. True or false? Okay. It is harder now than ever to have crusades because of the state of the world and cost. True or false? I've heard this a lot. And you may have this doubt in your mind. It's harder now than ever to have crusades because of the state of the world and the cost of things. False. Okay, years ago, evangelists spent a far larger amount for crusades and had less resources available. Less resources. So, false. Okay, Reinhard Bonnke, I screenshotted a couple of these facts here, which Bishop Dag had actually told us about. Reinhard Bonnke in his ministry averaged $1 million per crusade. $1 million. So that was for a crusade. Yes, there was some that cost more. I understand because of publicity and all these different things, and where he had 2 million people. But on average, some of his were 100,000, 200,000 people, and it was $1 million. And while individuals campaigning in smaller cities or earlier decades could cost around 500. So let's say he spent 500,000 on average. That was the average. It was kind of a stumbling block for a lot of people because they were not able to do it. They didn't have the faith Reinhard Bonnke had, just to be honest, to go and have mega crusades. So that's just a straight up false thing. And for the rest of you that maybe might not know Reinhard Bonnke but know Billy Graham, these are Billy Graham's numbers. So his would cost roughly $2.5 million in 1957. $2.5 million, and they'd budget $1.3 million, and that was for a 16-week campaign. Obviously, it was multiple nights and Madison Square Garden and all these things. So, it averaged out. It made sense why it cost so much. But you don't have to spend $840,000 for your first crusade. You don't have to spend $619,000 for your first crusade. You don't have to spend $60,000 for your first crusade for it to be successful and have over 10,000 people. So what I'm trying to show you is, it's far more accessible, and it's far more cost efficient and sustainable today than it was back then. Billy Graham's crusade directors, this is an example I wrote down. They used to live in the city which they were going to have a crusade in for 2 years. Bishop Dag told us that. They would have to live there for 2 years. They would live in the city where they were going to have a crusade for 2 years before they had it there. So it would take them a 2-year process to plan this whole crusade out for whether it was a week thing, a 16-week thing, whatever it was. But they would live there for 2 years, and that's because of the resources they had. Nowadays, we have a lot more, so it's available to us, so it's just simply false. Remember, sustainability is key, and that's what we're working at here. So you have to have a system that's repeatable. You have to have a system that you can implement anywhere in the world. So now, where it costs $800,000, $600,000, on the low end $400,000 to have a crusade, and that's abroad. Nowadays you can have a crusade with a team of under 20 people, a team of actually the one in the Philippines, over 2,000 people showed up. That was a team of 3 people. So or the team in Jackson, Tennessee, that was a small team. So you don't have to live in the place for 2 years. You don't have to live in a foreign country for 2 years to have your first crusade. You don't have to have any of those things. You just have to take a step. So another common true or false statement that people have, a lot of questions that they have is, you need at least 100 people in your church or 100 volunteers for it to run smoothly. True or false? Depends. Now, why do I say depends? Because there's two types of crusades, and I want you to realize this and write it down, okay? Number one, there's giveaways. That's the first type of crusade. Number two, there's large-scale campaigns. Now, what's the difference? Okay, giveaways cost more money, obviously. They're going to cost you something. Okay, it's either going to cost you more money or it's going to cost you more time. Large-scale campaigns cost more time. On average, we lived where we were going to have a crusade with Bishop Dag an average of 6 weeks. It'd be 6 to 8 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks. But mainly it was 6 weeks. So why was that? Because it takes more time. What you're making up, what would cost, I'll give this example. Some people, and again, not bad to have giveaway crusades, but I'm just showing you there's more than one way to do it. If you're a pastor and evangelist thinking, I want to have this, but I want to do it this way. That's the way Bishop Dag does it. Billy Graham didn't do giveaways. Ryan Harbonke didn't do giveaways. Bishop Dag doesn't do giveaways. So you don't have to do giveaways. There's more than one way to do it. So it'll either cost you time or it'll cost you money. You choose. It costs more money, it costs more time. But the truth of the matter is that the most successful crusade is the one you work at with all your heart. Okay, you have to choose what the cost is going to be. So large-scale campaigns, that's what I'm going to focus on this masterclass. But within the course, you'll find that we actually have modules set up where we have one for large-scale campaigns, very in-depth, which we're working on right now. And we have one for giveaways. So both of these that you see on there, they're both going to actually be on there. There's going to be a right way to do the giveaway crusades, a right way to do large-scale campaigns, and it's in-depth. So any questions you may have about money, about budgeting, about how do I do it, how do I do that, how do I do this, it'll all be on there for you guys. So there's large-scale campaigns. That's what we're going to focus on this presentation. They're easier than ever if you apply everything from this masterclass, okay? They're easier than ever. Why do I say that? Because you don't have to live in a place for 2 years. You don't have to, spend $400,000 to have 40,000 people there. That's not how it works anymore. So in 2026, it is easier than ever to have large crusades which impact the city. It sounds simple, but it is work. It's simple, but it's not easy because you have to do the work. You can't just expect to, you can do it the way I'm sure maybe some people do it, where you can pay for a Facebook ad and giveaways and call it a day. But if you want to, and which is great, people get saved, it's awesome. But if you want to have a large scale impact, it takes more than 2 weeks. It takes building up for 1, 2, 3 nights, however long you're going to have the crusade. And it sounds simple, which it is, but it's work. So I'll give you an example. We spent 6 weeks in Luanda, Angola. This is a picture which we took, okay? We weren't allowed to be inside the stadium. That's the soccer stadium in the background there, because FIFA didn't allow us to. So what did we do? We pivoted. That's one thing you're going to have to learn in crusade directing, or when you're planning your crusade, you have to pivot a lot, but keep pivoting. So we said, okay, this was actually covered in trees and rocks, and you can kind of see the trees in the distance over here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you can kind of see the trees in the distance. It was covered in trees. What did we do? Did we give up? No. We cleared out everything with a bulldozer, and we opened up this space so that over 70,000 people could attend. This was one of the nights. So this was something that personally impacted me because it was on my birthday. So on my birthday, I saw this. 6 weeks of work for 70,000 in attendance. That's with no giveaways, okay? Not one thing was given away. It was a message, altar call, and then in the morning they had services for people to be baptized in the Holy Ghost. So how did they do this with no giveaways? How did they do this without giving the people of Africa a PlayStation 5? The people of Angola giving them an Xbox or giving them a Hot Wheels toy set? Well, there's an application of daily strategies that I'm going to give you today inside the class, and it'll be up very soon. If not, it's not up today. But there is no random, okay? It's an application of daily strategies. There is no random. There's no guessing of, man, I really hope we're going to have over 200 people. We spent 6 weeks here. No, there's no random. It's an application of daily strategies. Every day was planned out before we even got there. And if we were running behind, we'd address it, move forward, and pivot. So I'm going to give you the strategies which we learned, because crusades aren't complex. Understand that. How'd you get 80,000, 70,000 people there? How'd you get 80,000 people there? No, first of all, I didn't. I was just an assistant. But these crusades aren't complex. It's a practical system that they got directly from the Bible, and I'm going to show you where. So in Luke chapter 10, I'm sure many of you have heard this verse where Jesus sends out the 72, right? So the Bible says that now after this, the Lord chose and appointed 70 others and sent them out ahead of him, 2 by 2, in every town and place where he himself was about to come visit. When Jesus arrived to a place, they didn't have Facebook ads. They didn't have, how would Jesus gather these crowds? How do you do that? It was these 70 people, which, they taught us this while we were in Africa. They were crusade directors. They went out ahead of him into every town and place where he was going to have his crusade, where he was going to have his visit. And they would speak to the town, set it up. And if they didn't accept him, that's why the Bible says that they would Jesus told them to dust off their feet and move to the next city. So every town where he was about to visit, he gathered the people. Now, why do I show you that verse? Because I want to show you we serve a God of order. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, and he directed the people to sit down. Underline where he says directed. He directed the people on the grass. Okay? Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks, broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. We serve a God of order, so the order in which the only way the people were going to receive was once they sat down where he directed them, and once they were broken up into groups, the Bible says. So why do I say that? Well, we were taught that in order for people to receive from the Lord, there has to be order. That's why when you see, Bishop Dag or Pastor Jonathan kick someone out of a service because they're disrupting, the devil's always trying to disrupt. So you have to make up your mind to do things correctly. Jesus directed people, and then in Luke chapter 10, we see how he sent them out ahead of him in 2 by 2. Why is that? Because he's a God of order. He planned things out. That's why Jesus had these crowds, because the directors, you could say, went out ahead of him. So crusade directing is biblical, and it is God instituted. It is God mandated, and it is crucial. Understand that. Crusade directing is really just fancy speech for preparing the land, like the 72 did for Jesus. And I believe it was 70 or 72. I might have written that wrong. But you get my point. Like the 70 did for Jesus. So how do these crusades actually work? That's the question a lot of people ask, and it's very simple. So number one, and this is a very broad, vast overview of the in-depth. There's no in-depth details, obviously, in here, because each thing is its own thing. So broadly, number one, you have to go. Okay? You can't watch as many videos as you want about crusades and having crusades, and what good is that if you're not going to go and apply it? You have to go. You felt the Lord tell you to go have a crusade in Kazakhstan, you have to go to Kazakhstan. I felt the Lord told me to come have a crusade down here in Mexico. I had to come down here and come. Okay, I had to hop on a flight and go. You have to go. Don't let the spiritual principles override the practical things that we're supposed to do. You have to go. Okay, once you get there, overview again. These are major steps, and I'll get into it. You form something called a BOT, Board of Trustees, and a CPC, which stands for your Central Planning Committee. And I'll get into that, what that means. But that's the one we had here with all the pastors. We had about 47 pastors show up there. And then you get to the advertisement phase, obviously, within 5 kilometers of where your crusade is going to be. You really focusing on that. You record salvation, plug in, repeat. It's super simple once you get these in-depth once you get the overview and then you learn the in-depth, it's so repeatable. You could do it anywhere. So don't be discouraged, because most crusades look like this. Okay, they advertise on Facebook, they buy giveaways, and then there's no plug-in to churches. There's normally no plug-in, whatever, right? So all that was done was really you gave people in Section 8 housing Vizio TVs, Roku TVs, and the people aren't being plugged in. And again, it's not wrong to do these giveaways, but we have to make sure to plug them in. So there's a different way, and we'll get into the giveaway. There's a giveaways course that we're still working on. I'm working on the large scale campaign one, because that's what I'm doing right now. So there's no plug-in to churches. So they end up capped due to a budget, right? They end up capped because of the giveaways budget. That's what happens with giveaway crusades. Or in large scale campaigns, it's not all bread and butter. You'll get capped due to participation. What does that mean? If you can't get the pastors of the city to participate, which has happened, I'll be completely transparent. It's happening here. It'll happen a lot. We try to get all the churches to participate under the grounds of people need Jesus, salvation. Okay, you believe in being baptized and this way, and you believe in being baptized that way, whatever. Those are secondary issues. We believe that salvation only comes through Jesus Christ. So when we say that and we get these churches to get involved, some of them don't want to, simply on the fact of, oh, but you're not Catholic. Oh, but you're not this. Oh, but you're not that. So you'll be capped in participation sometimes in the large scale campaigns. So there's something the devil will always try to use to cap you, but you have to learn to pivot. What day is today? Today's August 12th. The campaign, I had to move it back to August 29th. That's one day after when we had it planned. We went through 5 crusade venues, and I have 2 days to pivot. Okay? I have 2 days to pivot because of the lack of participation in the city, because of stigma around, and it happens. It happened to us in Madagascar, where the Catholic Church told its people to not go to the crusade, so it lowered the attendance because they all thought if they went, the Pope, once the priest says something, that's final. So they just won't go. So I have 2 days of pivot, and that's why I'm doing the course while I'm here, because it's happening in real time. So, and I'll update everybody. But I have 2 days to pivot of how I'm going to do this, where if you have enough participation, if you don't have enough participation, you'll have to pivot to implement some of the giveaways, crusade tactics. So sometimes you have to mix and mash, whatever. But however it happens, there's a system to do it. It's not like just random. Why do I say in 2 days? Because in 2 days, that'll be the 14th. That's 15 days before the crusade. And publicity starts 14 days before. So I have 2 days to decide and pray about it and see kind of where the pastor's participation is to decide what's going to happen. So in the Philippines, I'll give this example. We did a giveaway crusade for $11.43 per soul that showed up. Okay? You might think, wow, that's great. That's awesome. Right. It sounds like it is. And it is. Some people's dollar to soul thing is like, 50, whatever. But I want you to understand this. That was a giveaway crusade, which I said earlier, it'll either cost you more money or it'll cost you more time. We had 6 days to do this crusade, so obviously the trade-off is it's going to cost more money. When we were in Luanda, in Angola, Madagascar, all these places, what was it? In Madagascar, we did a large-scale campaign, LSC, for 56 cents per soul. Now, okay, the cost went down. What did that cost? That cost time. It didn't cost as much money, but it costed time. So, understand that it'll either cost you time or it'll cost you money, obviously, as anything in life. So, it was 56 cents per soul, which is great. That is a great dollar per soul ratio. So, and obviously that's attendance, and then the dollar per soul saved would have increased to about, in Madagascar, $1.30 or something like that. And then in the Philippines, it would have increased to, maybe 20, 25. So that's just kind of how it works. So understand, above all, throughout this course, as you're taking this class, as you're learning about crusades, that sustainability is key. Bishop Dag would tell us this all the time. Sustainability is key. What good is it to spend $1 million on a crusade if you can't repeatedly do that? How is Bishop Dag able to have 4 crusades a month, to have 5 crusades a month? Because he's learned that sustainability is key, and that's what he tried to teach us. That, okay, giveaway crusades are not sustainable. Okay, they're not, and if you can sustain it, you have to, I mean, really just be stressed, sweating bullets all the time for money or whatever. So sustainability is key. You want to have crusades? Great. How often do you want to have them? Think about these things before you even click into module 1 or 2 or whatever. How often do you want to have these? Is this a big dream you want to have in your city once a year? Is it something you want to have somewhere else? It all matters, but sustainability is key. He told us about how there was a known minister, which if I said his name, you know who it was, who was spending $1 to $2 million per crusade. When his crusade directors would arrive there, they'd rent out the best Escalades or Ford SUVs to drive around in. They had a driver. They'd stay in the best hotels. They'd stay in the best places, whatever. And not that it's bad to stay in places like that, but what I'm saying is he taught us that slowly increases the cost of things. Where, why am I staying? You would think, oh my gosh, Zeph is staying in a dump, whatever. But when you understand these principles that he gave, okay, how much do you save? And the Lord always provides, but this is practical advice that he gave us. Okay, believe the Lord for the next 3 crusades, money to come in, and then be steward of it, where you're not going to stay at the Marriott 5-star hotel. That's fine. I don't care. But you can find a house to rent from a local for like $20 for the month or whatever. And it's not, there's no roaches, there's no like spiders or whatever. That's what I'm saying. But you figure it out. Where, okay, you know what, you're going to do it in a foreign country. I'm okay with staying somewhere that has no AC. I'll get a fan or something. I'll get mosquito spray, whatever it is. But sustainability is key. You can't have a crusade. You couldn't have a crusade in Toliara or Madagascar without staying in a place where most people would be scared of staying. But because of the principle of sustainability, you're okay with saying, all right, I'll sleep on the floor, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's 6 weeks, so you can forward the kingdom of God. So sustainability is key, and this is a repeatable system. I can't say that enough. So what you're going to learn throughout this course is it's very repeatable. It's something that you can do wherever. It's something that you can just implement from day one. So crusades are simple, but not easy. Okay, they're simple, but not easy. But just for you guys, I want to walk you through your first win with crusades to start you off. Okay, we're going to start off from this masterclass just to get your brain moving. And a lot of the terminology I use might be salesy because I used to work life insurance and sales for window washing throughout Bible college and stuff like that. So just bear with me, but think about it as your first win, okay? Your first win with crusades. What are you talking about, Zeph? All right, planning for your first crusade, there's something you need to realize. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it. What's the first step, Zeph, that you'd say for the crusade? It's so simple. It's already on there. Choose the location. People think, I want to do a crusade for the Lord. I want to do this for the Lord. Okay, you ask them, where do you want to do it? Yeah, I'm just waiting to hear from the Lord. Okay, the Lord told you to do it, then go pick a place and do it. And then if that's not where it's supposed to be, the Lord will tell you to stop and redirect somewhere else. But you have to choose a location. The Lord's not going to wake you up in the middle of the night 9 times out of 10 and tell you, Sydney, Australia, that's where you need to do your crusade. No, you need to be practical about it, pick a location, and move. Pick a location and move forward with it. So don't overcomplicate it. For your first crusade, pick the location. Write it down right now on a piece of notebook, paper, on your phone, whatever. Write down, okay, this is the place that I feel to do my first crusade, to do this crusade. And this is a very practical guide. I want you on your laptop to download Google Earth Pro. It'll only be available until July 2027, I believe. But it's something that is such a great resource, not the online version. Download the actual Google Earth Pro because there's things that don't work the same. So this is an example of what I've been dealing with here, okay? So the 5 points you see throughout the city there, the 5 pins, those are the 5 places that we were looking at for a crusade. Obviously, we started off with venue 1 in the center, and this isn't even the updated one. We went through more, just going to see them through all parts of the city, but we slowly got pushed out of the city because of religion and certain politics, whatever. But we kept moving forward. I didn't feel a stop from the Lord. I felt to keep going, so we're still going. So we got this venue, right? So what are the circles, Zeph? What are the circles that are around the venue that you chose? Whatever. This is the 5-kilometer circle, okay, which you can do on Google Earth, where 80 to 90% of the people at your crusade are going to come from, okay? 80 to 90% will come from within the 5-kilometer radius. And this is why this phase is crucial, number one, because the majority of your people are going to come within those 5 kilometers. So now that you picked your city, the Lord told you where to do it, whatever. Look around on Google Earth. Okay, zoom in here. That looks like a soccer field. What's it surrounded by? Is it housing? What's the politics of the area? And I'll have a form for you guys of how to study your city, because you do need to study it. You need to study the demographics, study the language, study the season. You don't have to learn the language, but what do they speak? The time of year, is it rainy season? Is it storming? Is there another event going on? What time of day should your crusade be? Why do I say that? There's a city off the coast of Africa, Bishop Dag told us, that they had the crusade starting at 6 p.m. and it wasn't working. What did they learn? Well, at 5 p.m., the men would leave to go to the oil rigs to go work overnight, and they'd be gone. So then the women who had worked during the day would stay home and not go out. They wouldn't go to the market. They wouldn't go anywhere. The market was closed, everything like that. So what would they have done? They pivoted to having it earlier in the day and a different day. So it's something that you have to realize, that you have to immerse yourself in the local culture. Okay, what's going on? Pittsburgh. I used to live in Pittsburgh for Bible college. It's a city that has its own culture. Every city has its own culture. Pittsburgh, they dress, not to offend anybody, they dress bummy. Everybody dresses bummy, which is great. In the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from, everyone has a flannel on and is probably driving a Subaru, whatever. So every city has a culture. So learn the culture of your city. And that's why this is a crucial thing in this phase, because it reveals the strength of your crusade, who you can work with, who you can't work with, what is the city demographic looking like, the main language, is it a Catholic city, is it a Muslim city? Okay, what's the strong, who can you work with? What are the Pentecostal churches in the area, Assemblies of God, whatever, Rhema churches, whatever it is. And understand this, just because I mentioned how the Catholics didn't want to work with us here, that's not every city. You may be Catholic watching this. I love Catholics. There's no one that believes in miracles more than Catholics. So it's city by city. That's why I'm saying you have to immerse yourself in the culture of the city and figure out what it is that they do, what it is that they like, what hours are they out during the day. Is it a fight for attention? Will your crusade be the main focus? You have to figure all that out. So this is the phase where you decide if you have to have your first pivot, right? Okay, where you look throughout the city and you find that there's this crusade ground on this side of the city, but there's one on the other side that's a little bit better. You learn to pivot off the jump, okay? You learn to pivot off the jump. And most people think, don't you need to already know people on the ground? Don't you need to have money in the account? I'll address this first. Don't you need to already know people on the ground? No, you don't need to know a soul. But what helps, the Lord will always give you a divine connection. I'll give you this example. If you're a church who's abroad right now, who's like, man, I want to have a crusade, but whatever. What would happen was, whenever we went to a city with Bishop Dag, there was he had 6,000 churches all around the world. Obviously, he probably has a church there. So he would have a local church there, and we'd base out of there and work it out. But there was cities that he didn't have a church. So we'd base with the church and then go from there. That's why, all these words, Board of Trustees, Central Planning Committee, they were all a part of that. And I'll get into that throughout the course. So no, you don't need to know anybody. You work it out. Now, number 2, don't you already need to have money in the account? You probably already know my answer. It's no. And I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. This was, Parker and I went to What No Eye Has Seen, and I felt in my spirit to sow everything. We sowed everything from the ministry. We sowed everything, which we didn't have much. I mean, we didn't even have a partner yet. So we sowed everything from the ministry. We sowed everything from our personal account. And I'm not joking. This is a screenshot afterwards. I think it was like a week after. Or it was like that same week later on. This is a screenshot of that week when we gave everything. I mean, we cleared every account out. And the cents that are left are like refunds from Lord knows what. I mean, a total of 77 cents. That's what we had. So that's what we had. And the Lord told me, have the crusade. And what did I receive? I received confirmation from Bishop Dag himself, who said, take the step. I said, all right, we have 77 cents, whatever. So what happened? Well, our ministry account, which had nothing in it, okay, over the last, tomorrow marks a month, okay? In a month, we received 6,000, and it says a month because it's talking like August and July, that difference. But look at this fiscal year, because it started July 13th, today's August 12th. $6,340 have come in on the dot for the crusade. That's the Lord, to take us from 77 cents. We have no way to even get to the crusade ground. And someone gives immediately at that night that Bishop Dag gave, the night after I think Bishop Dag gave me the word, someone just sowed $1,000 into us. And I was able to buy the flight. And I was like, we don't have any money anyway, so we'll just work it out from there. So then the Lord's been providing the 6,340. That's where we're at. And we're moving forward to advance the kingdom of God. There'll come a day where I'll be 4 or 5 crusades ahead where I'm not going to have to, even have to open up my ministry account, whatever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to be sustainable with what God gives you and be a good steward and watch how the Lord's provision just pours in because you're a good steward. You sow and you're just working on the kingdom. So I just wanted to share that testimony to show you I'm not blowing smoke. This is God's hand over crusades. And I wanted to show that with you. If you have more than 77 cents in your account, you're already better off than Parker and I were for this first crusade. So move by faith and practically. But don't let anything stop you. Don't let doubt stop you. Don't let finances stop you. That vision you have for a crusade, you have to move forward with it. So understand the right time never comes. Okay? The right time to have a crusade, the right time to I'm going to wait until my account gets to $7.70 because it's 77 right now. I could have said that, but no one had everything in order before they went to attempt great things for God. I mean, Pastor Jonathan, he gives his testimony all the time about him and Pastor Dallas. They didn't have anything, but they kept moving forward. Bishop Dag did not have a crusade director. He didn't have, he was in full-time medicine as a medical student, as a doctor, setting chairs up, playing instruments for church, catching for himself basically, and then refilling his own oil bottle, I'm sure, and preaching at the same time. Or Oral Roberts, right? Where we get the term of seed faith. Where did that come from? Oral Roberts, a man at his church. It was a farmer who came up to him and said, Oral, I don't have enough money to plant. I felt to just give this seed money, this seed offering, what normally would have been for seed, I'm going to give it as an offering. So the seed, I'm going to give it to you, believing the Lord for a harvest. Oral Roberts and his wife, she actually, you can hear his testimony out of his own mouth. She was about to leave him with the kids. They had no money. They had no money for food. They had no money for anything. And he said, let's just believe the Lord. And so he got that idea from that farmer. They sowed, they had like $600 left or whatever. And he set aside like $200 for his wife and kids to have food for the month and whatever. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to sow the rest of the $400. So he sowed it. His wife is on the verge of leaving him with the kids. And he said, Lord, would it be wrong for me to believe that this is seed money? That you're going to take us to a new level? And he felt the Lord tell him no. He says that he had a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. So what happened? Well, A couple hours pass by. The next day, he's driving. He runs into a car on the side of the street, which does not seem like the start of a good testimony. He runs into the side of the street, and he goes up and knocks on the door. Hey, I crashed in your car. I just came up here to give you my details and everything. I'm really sorry about it. We can get it figured out. And the owner of the door, he opens the door and he goes, "Oh, that's very honest of you. I wouldn't expect you to do that." And Oral just says, "Yeah, well, I'm the pastor at the local church or whatever, whatever it was, the local church, Pentecostal church, and I just, I'm an honest man." So he wrote down all his insurance information, wrote down everything, gave it to him, and it doesn't seem like the start of a testimony. But the next day, the guy rolls up on this, really nice Buick or whatever, and he pulls up to Oral's house, and he goes and knocks on the door. Oral opens the door. "Oh, hey, how much do I owe you?" And the guy goes, "Oh, you don't owe me anything. Just because you were so honest, I'm going to make sure that you never have to get another car again. That Buick out front, that's for you." And every year, for the rest of Oral's life, he had a new Buick every year. Because Oral had implemented seed, and he had just believed, and then he just worked. He just worked and worked his seed. So understand that no one had it in order before they went out to do it. So make up your mind to just go ahead and do it. There's practical steps that make the difference between a large-scale crusade and a smaller outreach. So just take the steps. Okay, this is a screenshot of one of the manuals I have, which are implemented into this course, right? This is the Healing Jesus Campaign Manual. And I've implemented it into the course so that you can know in a modern way and non-African English, because most of you won't even understand, of what to do, how to do it, the practicals, because the practical steps are what make the difference. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to come up with this new system, but this course is just to show you the strategies that large-scale crusade directors use to gather 50, 60, 200,000 people. That's all this is. It's scalable and it's sustainable. So some things this course will have are the ads and marketing, yes, the scripts for door-to-door of, pastors, what to tell them to join the vision, the budgeting, all that. But mainly, it's going to be all of that. It's going to be the practicals of what to do. So as this course progresses, you can ask questions and find out more information on what's going on at kaloi.net. That's our ministry website. We'll get the .com soon enough. And if you'd like to be a part of the Crusade Academy group chat, all you have to do is just DM at Kaloi Ministries on Instagram, the letter CA, and we'll go ahead and get you added in there. Thank you for joining me for this masterclass. That's all I have for today for this introduction of what this course even is, what it's going to be about. It's going to be a very practical course because it's something that we all should be a part of, having crusades and doing more for the Lord. So you can go ahead and just hit the join button. I'll include the link in the description on Instagram, the link in the description on Facebook, wherever this is posted. Also put it on all the social media stories so you guys can go ahead and hit join. And the courses will be dropping weekly, if not bi-weekly, because I'm very busy running this crusade and also recording everything. So it'll take a little bit to edit and then put it up so you guys can see what exactly it is. But those of you who join the group chat, we can get started right away because we can hop on a call. We can do all of that, answer any questions, and we can get a plan in place for you to have your first crusade. So first 10 ministries, I believe I said, that want to be a part of that. 10, 15. I'll add you into the group chat. We'll get started with that. But let's take a step for Jesus. It's going to be great. I'm very excited about this course. It's not something I'm selling. It's something that I hope will be a blessing to you. So thank you all for hopping on. We'll hop on again soon.